ESPN presents a special edition of Budweiser Racing Across America. Racing to the Breeders' Cup. Brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By the Mirage in Las Vegas, presenting the World Heavyweight Championship. Douglas versus Holyfield, October 25th. By DeBartolo Racing, leading the way to the 21st century. Thrifty Car Rental. Thrifty is a lot of car rental company for incredibly little. And by Three Chimneys. The idea is excellence. The Turf Classic Invitational from Belmont Park, New York celebrates its 14th renewal as one of America's premier grass events and as a race of champions. We're next live on ESPN. New York's spectacular weekend of Grade 1 thoroughbred racing action continues on a beautiful Sunday afternoon live from Belmont Park, New York, and here on ESPN. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. Welcome again to the host site of the Breeders' Cup, that big day of racing, October 27th. And this weekend has been billed as the premier preview weekend for that Breeders' Cup $10 million championship day. 5 Grade 1 stakes run here at Belmont Park, worth more than $2.3 million. The headline event of the weekend was yesterday's 72nd renewal of the $750 million Jockey Club Gold Cup. Let's review it for you. On the inside, Canada's triple commoner is Vestia the Gray, but giving away here to DeRoche. On the outside, the Loblolly stable colors of John Ed Anthony. But on the outside, flying here is Flying Continental, the California bred, ridden by Corey Black. The Strobe winner, owned by Jack Kent Cook, trained by Jay Robbins, just gets to the finish line first by a long neck as our Budweiser long shot yesterday. That was the headline event of Saturday. Now the headline event today, live coverage of the Turf Classic. Here are the conditions of racing for the 14th renewal of this race that really has crowned champions and had a major impact on the Breeders' Cup Turf event. It's 14th running, 600,000 guaranteed. It's New York's richest turf event of the fall in their regular schedule. 1.5 miles on the outer Widener turf course, and that is the same distance, the same course as the $2 million turf race for the Breeders' Cup on the 27th. Well, now to meet the field and get a perspective on this championship weekend of racing here in New York, here's Dave Johnson and Charles C. Candy.
And what a banquet it is at this time of year for sports fans. Basketball and hockey about to start. The World Series around the corner, football in full swing, and Charles, for the racing fan, this is heaven. All these Grade 1 events leading to the Breeders' Cup, and today an American favorite, turf racing. And
we've had an abundance of it lately, too. We've seen the Arlington Million and the Man o' War. Today we've got the Turf Classic and the Arc, and there's still the Rothmans and the Budweiser International to look forward to. Now, all of these horses we're seeing are proven commodities on the turf and at the distance. What we're looking for today is a horse with the quality to go on to the Breeders' Cup.
Well, let's find out who's coming to our 1.5 mile lawn party here at Belmont Park. 1.5 miles is the distance, the 14th running of the Turf Classic, and we start at the rail with Cacoethes, 3.5 to 1. Ray Cochrane flown in from London for the riding assignment. By the way, all of the horses carry 126 pounds. Shy Tom is number 2 at 5 to 1 with Chris Antley. The 3-horse is El Senor, 3 to 1 with Angel Cordero. Fast and Gold, the long shot in the field at 10 with Jerry Bailey aboard. Al Wahush starts at 5 to 1 with Jose Santos. And there's the favorite, number 6 with approval. Craig Perrette will be in the irons and 8 to 5 in the morning line. You know, in England, there's no dirt racing. Everything's on the turf, so you can't take the races off the grass. So more often than not, you have something other than firm going. Good, soft, yielding, whatever. And Charles, in talking with the European horsemen, 2 subjects always come up. The course itself and the condition of the course. Frankly, I think it's an overblown issue because it's just a real good excuse to use if they lose. The turf is too hard or it was too soft, but it still has a big deal to do with who's in the race today.
Well, Dave, horses do have their preferences, such as Cacoethes. Now, here's a horse who isn't always at his best when the going comes up soft. So as the British may often do when they have a horse who needs the top of the ground. He was on a plane Wednesday morning and came here to America in search of the firm going he needs because of a foot problem that he's had. Another one who needs it firm is With Approval. He set a world record here in the Bowling Green on a firm turf course. Then he had to sit out the Man o' War and wait for the turf course to firm back up today.
And what an interesting mix we have. A New York bred, a Virginia bred, a Cal bred, 2 Kentucky breds, and 1 Canadian bred.
And a North Carolina bred, and a Missouri bred,
right.
And now we're going out to the Maryland bred.
All right, thank you, Chelsea, from the host city of Preakness, from Baltimore. Thank you. You know, the Breeders' Cup, of course, is now less than 3 weeks away. With that in mind, we have with us the Vice President of the New York Racing Association's marketing area. That's Rich Brown. And Rich, are you folks ready for the Breeders' Cup?
Yes, Chris, the NYRA staff has been preparing for the Breeders' Cup now for over a year, and we're totally dedicated to making this one of the greatest days in racing history for the New York race fan.
I know you've expanded the winner's circle here. You've also made a very nice area for those international visitors on the backside here.
Yes, Chris, we have a new quarantine facility which actually allows trainers from other countries to ship their horses over and let them train those horses if they wish to do so the same day that they arrive. And as you're well aware, there have been a couple of horses recently that have taken advantage of that, namely Go and Go and Defensive Play.
Rich, I know people around the country want to know, if they come here October 27th, can they get tickets to the Breeders' Cup?
Yes, Chris, grandstand admission is open at $5, and we are still selling tickets for the clubhouse. There will be limited admission there in the clubhouse, but tickets are still on sale.
And a special promotion is getting the fans ready here in New York for the Breeders' Cup.
Yes, Chris, we have the Dream Races game, and very simply, we play former Breeders' Cup races on our monitors in here, and those patrons that have the correct horse on their game cards can win up to $10,000 or up to $250,000 on Breeders' Cup Day.
Save some of those game cards for me. We'll try to save this weather for you on Breeders' Cup Day.
It's been just great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Rich. Rich Brown, Vice President of Marketing, New York Racing Association, giving you a preview of that championship day of racing here in New York. Again, October 27th, less than 3 weeks away. Back on a beautiful fall afternoon at Belmont Park in New York. You know, this Turf Classic has had winners in the past like Manila and Theatrical, went on to win the Breeders' Cup Turf. Sunshine Forever in 1988 won this race, then was second in the Breeders' Cup Turf. With all that in mind, let's take a look back. 3 champions in the last 4 years from this race. We're going to look back at double winners in this event.
This Claiborne Look Back is brought to you by Claiborne Farm, where for more than a century, a great record reflects our experience.
In the 1986 Turf Classic, the 3-year-old turf sensation Manila continued his march toward the eclipse for male grass champion. He went to the post as the 4-5 favorite, but the victory wouldn't come easy.
Doubles continues to lead the way by Fabiola Manila, heads apart. Damaster is on the inside in 4th there in the stretch. Doubles still leads. Damaster gaining ground. Manila also moving up on the far outside. Here comes Danger's Hour. They pass the 8th pole. The 3-year-old Manila on the inside. Damaster, they're heads apart. Danger's Hour now 3rd. Manila, Damaster, heads apart as they race to the wire.
The $2 million Breeders' Cup Turf. Another close-fought affair with Manila once again prevailing. His victim was Theatrical, who would repeat the Turf Classic Breeders' Cup double the next year.
And our favorite with approval is seeking to become the 3rd horse to duplicate that feat. He's trained by Roger Atfield, who saddled another favorite here just yesterday. The 3-year-old is Vestia in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And Roger, I thought he was pretty noble in defeat.
He was. You know, we were kind of upset that he got beaten. But when we analysed the race completely all around, I was very happy with the horse, and he came out of the race very well, and I think all he can do is improve off that race.
And now today, with approval, yet another favorite, but he's got a real affinity for this course here at Belmont.
Well, he does. Actually, the 2 races that he won here were on the inside turf, and this one's on the outside turf, and he did finish 2nd in the Sword Dancer on this particular turf course. But the going will be firmer today than it was at that time, and he should run a very good race.
And he set a world's record in the Bowling Green, and that was a race where he showed his versatility. He doesn't seem to have to be too far back or too close up.
No, he's a very versatile horse. This race, I don't quite know. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of pace in this race, and I'm actually hoping that the English horse shows some legitimate pace. But he's a pretty versatile horse. You can do just about anything you want with him.
Who's better, is Vestia or with approval?
Well, with approval's broken a world record right here in Belmont, and he won the title here in Belmont, and his Vestia is yet to show his true colours you know, south of the Canadian border. I believe he will, and I think he's a very good horse, but he's got to do what With Approval's done so far for me to start comparing him.
All right, well, good luck this afternoon with Approval. Roger Atfield, trainer of back-to-back Canadian Triple Crown winners. He didn't have far to come for this race, but right now Dave Johnson has got the story of the horse who came the farthest of all for the Turf Classic.
The 4-year-old American-bred, English-raced, and Greek-named Cacoethes was one of Britain's top-rated 3-year-olds last year. He's lightly raced so far this season, but comes off a sharp second in his most recent try.
You know, he's a very good horse on his day. He loves fast ground, which hopefully he'll get here. He likes to be just up with the pace. And on his day, he's a very good horse. He was 3rd in their Derby, 2nd in the King George, and won the King Edward VII.
Trainer Guy Harwood's yard has sent numerous runners to the U.S. over the years, including 6 Breeders' Cup Day starters. They clicked here 2 weeks ago with defensive play in the Man o' War and have followed the same pattern again, arriving 5 days before the race.
I think we try to put an edge on them at home, and you know, with the travelling, they dehydrate. You haven't got to do any work with them really here. When you get them here, all you've got to do is get them acclimatised to the track.
That process is sometimes difficult for European-based runners, particularly getting used to our starting gates. Last year's top miler Zilzal was a handful prior to his disappointing Breeders' Cup mile effort, but Lawson sees no such problem with Cacoethes.
I don't really know. He's a more placid horse. Zilzal was a very highly strung horse at home, you know. He was always a problem at home. I don't think anything would be a problem to him in that way. You know, he's a pretty amenable horse.
And Lawson is also confident his colt has the flexibility of style to handle the race any way it comes up.
He broke the track record in the Derby trial last year, and he made all that day, so I don't think that would bother him, and it was over 1.5 miles, so it wouldn't be any great worry if no one went on weekend.
And Cacoethes, our English visitor for the betting public here in New York. They like him. He's second choice now, 2-1. The favorite With Approval now, 6-5. Well, I'm so sorry you couldn't be here with us this weekend for this great weekend of Grade 1 racing action, but don't worry, we're going to show it to you right now. Here's what you've missed. Let's take a look at this schedule of Grade 1 events that feature 2 2-year-old races, the Champagne and Frizette, the Gold Cup you saw earlier, the Turf Classic, and the Belmont are coming up today. Let's go back to the 43rd running of the Frizette now. Grade 1, $250,000 for the 2-year-old fillies, and the leader is the leader in this division. This is Meadow Star, number 4 in the purple and green block silks of Carl Icahn. Inside of her, number 2 in the pink is flawlessly. On the outside is Champagne Glow. But the story is Meadow Star as they straighten for home. Watch her rider, Jose Santos. You saw him look behind him. Now we'll get after Meadow Star a bit. She will wake the filly up with about 8 cracks of the whip. And boy, does she wake up. Draws off to win by 14 lengths in a time of 1:35.2 for the mile. Her 6th straight win. The first place check of $381,600 in yesterday's Frizette pushed her career earnings over $700,000 for the daughter of Meadow Lake out of the In Reality mare, In Reality Star. And trainer Leroy Jolly says next for her is, of course, the juvenile distaff of the Breeders' Cup, and she will be the favorite. Probably has the title already wrapped up. Well, now how about the 2-year-old boys? Well, that was the Grade 1 Champagne. $500,000 on the line. Tom Durkin has the gate-to-wire call of yesterday's Champagne Stakes.
They're in the gate. And they're off. And Link comes out running on the outside. Deposit Ticket is rushing up on the rail, fighting a pair with good early speed, and Subordinated Debt is right there. Down the back stretch, Gary Stevens puts Deposit Ticket on the lead. Cordero's right there with Subordinated Debt to chase him in second. Fighting a pair is now third. Kyle's Our Boy has come out racing in 4th position. And Take Me Out is settled in 5th, early about 5 lengths off the lead. Fly So Free is 4 wide racing in 6th. X-Ray, Craig Perrette asking him toward the inside 7th. Otter Creek threads his way through between horses 8th. Solidarity Chief is now racing in 9th position. Happy Jazz Band is 10th. Stately Wager on the far outside is now racing 11th, followed by Link, who is 12th. And the trailer is Groom's Reckoning. The quarter went in a very sharp 22 2/5 seconds. They have run a half in an excruciating 45-1. Deposit Ticket still trying to resist. Subordinated Debt, who's coming to him right there on the outside. Fighting Affairs just off the lead. On the outside, Take Me Out is coming with his rally. 4 wide. Fly So Free is picking off horses on the far outside. He is fanned 5 wide into the stretch. Happy Jazz Band is just in behind the lead. Then it's Otter Creek who's there toward the inside, and here comes Fly So Free right by the weakening pacemaker. Subordinated Debt is game, and Take Me Out is right there putting it his run. Happy Jazz Band on the far outside, and they're inside the final furlong, and it's Fly So Free. Here is a new 2-year-old star, and he's a good-looking one too. He wins it with total authority.
Fly So Free from the barn of Scotty Schulhofer, ridden by Jose Santos, wins the Champagne, leading 13 to the wire. The field was so big because, well, Eastern Echo, the undefeated 2-year-old colt from Mac Miller's barn, was hurt earlier in the week and has been retired. The favorite Deposit Ticket from the Lucas barn finished last. Well, as if there's not enough great racing here in New York, we're going to take you to Keeneland, yesterday's Grade 1 running of the Spinster, showcasing 2 great mares there. Here's Dave Johnson.
Here I am. I got to take
At Keeneland yesterday in the Grade 1 Spinster, Bayakoa stalked the front-running Barbarica to the half in 47, then inched up and took the lead on the far turn, and without even feeling the sting of the whip, coasted to a 3-length victory in stakes record time of 1 minute 47 seconds with Lafitte Pinkai aboard. Bayakoa, who's trained by Ron McAnally, became only the 3rd mare in history to win the Spinster for the 2nd time. She won it last year by 11. Gorgeous, who was 7th early, closed to finish 2nd. Luthier's Launch was 3rd. Bayakoa.
Well, now the question is again, will Bayakoa's Connections, the Whittams, decide to pay $200,000 as they did last year to supplement her to the distaff when she won the Breeders' Cup distaff and was the champion mare? That'll be an interesting decision for her. Now a bit of international racing news. Run earlier this morning, our time here from Paris, France, at Longchamp, Arc de Triomphe, and won by an American-owned Saumarez, 2:20-4 for the 1.5-mile test. Saumarez, bred in England, owned by Californian Bruce McNall and hockey great Wayne Gretzky. That same team, by the way, also owns Golden Pheasant, who won the Arlington Million. They're talking about an entry for the $2 million Breeders' Cup Turf. Now let's put this whole weekend of events in perspective. Comments again from Dave and Charlesy.
What did you find most interesting yesterday?
The 2-year-old races, Dave, even though both of them were won authoritatively. Meadow Star ran a 1/5 of a second faster than the Champagne did, but the final quarter in the Frizette was run a full second faster than the final quarter in the Champagne. Now, in all fairness to Fly So Free, he was coming from off the pace and didn't set all those fractions, so he closed well. But the final quarter in 24-2 is pretty quick for a filly.
And both of those 2-year-olds ridden by Jose Santos. What a jockey he is, proving he's one of the finest in America today. He has his ducks in line for the Breeders' Cup, at least the 2-year-olds, and he's going to move his tack to California for the Santa Anita Winter Meet, and they better watch out for him out there. He will be a presence in the jockey standings. Chris?
All right, some comments from Dave and Chelsea. You're looking in the paddock live at Shy Tom, the 2-horse, owned by William Young, trained by D. Wayne Lucas. One of the longer shots on the board. We'll be back with our post-parade in a moment. Again, looking live at the paddock there as El Senor is saddled up. They're heading to the racetrack, and it's time for us to go inside the Daily Racing Form, take a closer look at this race by some of the numbers, figures, and some video as well with Joe Hirsch, executive economist of the Daily Racing Form. His comments on today's big race.
I think we've got a very interesting Turf Classic coming up. The favorite with approval, a very fine horse. My only question with him is whether or not he's as effective at 1.5 miles as he is at 1.25 miles. But he's in very good hands, and he's coming to the race very well. At the 1.5 mile distance, El Senor is ours. He won the Sword Dancer at the 1.5 mile distance earlier this summer, beating with approval, and he's trained well for Bill Wright. Cacoethes, the English horse, is also a good 1.5 mile horse, and is in excellent hands with the jockey Ray Cochrane. And Shy Tom ran a very good race in the Man of War, finished well, and is also to be respected. Those are the horses that I think will do well in the Turf Classic coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. And, of course, America's Turf Authority, the Daily Racing Form. We thank them, as always, for their help on the statistics and charts. Here are the updated odds now for the Turf Classic at Belmont Park. Again, the English shipper Cacoethes at 5-2 right now. The second choice, Shy Tom at 6. El Senor 4-1. Biggest price on the board is Fast and Gold at 16. Then the 5 horse is Al Wahoosh at 7. And the favorite is With Approval, the 6 horse. You see the international flags flying over the tote board here at Belmont. And let's get away for our post parade. You know, no lead pony for the English visitor, but a California bred. This is Cacoethes from a Keeneland sale purchase, $225,000 in September of '87, owned by Lady Jane Harrison, making his United States debut. Only his 4th race in 1990. He was second in the mile and a half in his last start at Ascot. The rider is Ray Cochrane, 6th leading rider in England. The 33-year-old Irishman came back from a fractured pelvis, a fractured skull, and won the Epsom Derby in 1988. Number 2 is Shy Tom from the barn of William T. Young, trained by D. Wayne Lucas, a 4-year-old colt by Blushing Groom. Second, beaten just half a length in the Man of War here. His only turf start, by the way, this year. Shy Tom, ridden today by one of New York's rising young stars, Chris Antley. He won the riding title at Saratoga this past August. The 3 horse. This is a roan 6-year-old El Senor, trained by Bill Wright, whose grandfather Horatio Laurel was known as the Grand Senor. He won the Sword Dancer here at this mile and a half distance, was 7th in last year's Breeders' Cup Turf, 9th though in his last start. And we should tell you also, El Senor drinks Budweiser. A little note there. The rider, Angel Cordero Jr., a Hall of Famer, has won this race 2 times, 1978 with Waya and 1988 Sunshine Forever. The 4 horse, this is Fast and Gold. An ambitious spot for this New York bred, was 4th in the Man of War, 7th, beaten 12 3/4 lengths at this mile and a half distance in the Sword Dancer. The rider of Fast and Gold this afternoon, one of the best in the East, or really anywhere he takes his tack. We saw him as a red-hot rider at Louisiana Downs. Jerry Bailey, president of the National Jockeys Guild. The 5 horse is Al Wahoosh, a Group 1 winner in Europe, then won the Burke at Santa Anita last November. Was 3rd in the Caesars International in Atlantic City, unplaced 11th though. Really an unexplained 17.5 length finish behind the winner in the Arlington Million. The rider, Jose Santos, Eclipse Award winner. He's won 2 of the last 4 of these Turf Classics, 86 Manila, last year Yankee Affair. And here's the favorite now at 7-5. Last year's Canadian Triple Crown winner, With Approval, set a world record here in 2:10-1 in the Bowling Green of the mile and 3/8. He won the title, was 2nd in the Sword Dancer, his last out, 2nd in the Arlington Million. And the rider, one of America's best, Craig Perrette, winner, of course, of the 1990 Kentucky Derby on Unbridled. That's the field for the Turf Classic, the 14th renewal of this $600,000 event, New York's richest turf event of the fall regular schedule. We'll be back to the race right after this. Now the horses still parading on the main dirt track before they cross over to the Widener Turf course to load for this mile and a half Turf Classic. Let's update you on the odds now. Cacoethes, the shipper from England, at 2-1. Second choice, Shy Tom at 7. El Senor at 4. Fast and Gold, the biggest price at 19. Al Wahoosh at 7. And the favorite, Canadian Triple Crown winner, With Approval at 6-5. We've been on a roll here in New York. As you know, we hit a Bud Longshot exact in the Gotham and Aqueduct early in the year. We hit with Flying Continental in last year's Jockey Club Gold Cup. There's no reason we can't hit the Budweiser Longshot today in the Turf Classic. Here's the Bud Longshot.
Well, we promise you that our Budweiser long shot will be flying at the finish, because that's Shy Tom's most effective racing style. He rallied from last to finish 2nd last out in the mile and 3/8 Man of War, and he should like that extra furlong. In fact, Jeff Lucas looks for good things today and possibly in the Breeders' Cup.
Shy Tom ran a very, very good race in the Man of War here at Belmont. A good second, a fast-closing second at the wire. It was an excellent race for him, and really changed our thinking and put us into the Turf Classic with now thoughts of the Breeders' Cup following this race.
Chris Antley gets the riding assignment. We saw Chris win the Woodward with Dispersal, and we hope that Shy Tom will be brave today as our Budweiser long shot.
Like that price, it keeps going up, Dave. Right now, the Bud Longshot at 7-1. Flying Continental, yesterday's Bud Longshot winner, has us on a roll here, Chelsea. You just came in from the paddock. Some of your observations back there.
Well, one of the best-looking horses back there is the gray horse you see there, With Approval. But I had the most fun looking at Cacoethes, the English horse who shipped over. He's a long, tall, rangy fellow. Time form refers to him as sparsely furnished, but considering he just flew across the ocean this week, he looks very well and was very contained in the paddock. His name is Greek, which means naughty or mischievous, but he was a perfect gentleman in the paddock, and he's said to be a very well-behaved horse. He was good enough last year to finish a very close second to Nashwan, so he duplicates that. He'll be tough today on this firm going. And there is With Approval, one of the two gray horses. They always catch someone's eye, and he is a particularly good-looking horse.
And he really has been especially effective. Craig Perret is the rider of With Approval. We had a chance to talk with him earlier about his assignments on With Approval and how he came to get this outstanding mount.
Well, you know, I picked him up early in the summer here, and I rode him in a Bowling Green, and he had set a world record, and he was very impressive that day. And then I had turned around and rode him back in the title, which he'd win very easily, and I knew right then that this was my Arlington Million horse. I thought that was my big shot for the Arlington Million. And I had ridden him back in the Million, and he did run a winning race. He just got beat, and I'm looking forward to today to riding him in this big stake, the Classic.
With Approval certainly has the approval of the betting public here at 6-5, but we know our Dave Johnson's always trying to beat the favorite. Dave, how do you see the race?
Well, With Approval may be very tough to run down this afternoon, but if it can be done, El Senor could be the one. El Senor and With Approval finished 1-2 in the mile-and-a-half sword dancer at the end of July, and even though there's a bit of a weight switch against El Senor, I do believe that it'll be a 1-2 finish again, With Approval and El Senor, or El Senor With Approval.
Chelsea, I know you have your eye on the Canadian roan.
Well, he is wearing those front bandages, and that shouldn't disturb anyone. He wore them when he ran a wonderful second in the Arlington Million, so I don't think that that is any kind of a soundness problem with him. I think I'm going to line up with the English horse. I like Cacoethes. He's going to have probably a little something to say about who's on the lead.
All right, El Senor goes in. Now you see Fast and Gold, the New York Bred. We'll bring you up to date on the records for this event. The stakes record, 225-1. The great John Henry. The track record, Secretariat. Let's go to Dave Johnson.
And the 6-5 favorite, With Approval, ready to move into line. This is a mile-and-a-half, though they'll pass under the finish line twice. And the flashy roan colt there is the final in our half dozen. And he's frisky. All set. Mile-and-a-half. Turf firm. And they're off. With Approval on the outside, takes the early lead. At the rail, Cacoethes is right there and challenging. Cacoethes at the rail, and on the outside With Approval. Al Wahoosh is now into third. Shy Tom at the rail back to fourth. Fast and Gold between horses, and as usual, El Senor at the back of the pack, about 8 lengths off the leader, who is Cacoethes. And Cacoethes has the lead now by a tight length. Al Wahoosh on the outside into second position. Shy Tom saves ground at the rail third. With Approval on the outside is fourth. Fast and Gold is fifth. El Senor at the back of the pack. And as they swing around the turn, Ray Cochrane has Cacoethes on a length and 3/4 advantage. Al Wahoosh is second at this point. The first quarter in a lazy 24 2/5 seconds. As they move to the backstretch, Cacoethes in front from the start has it by 2. Al Wahoosh is second at this point now. With Approval on the outside. Craig Perret asks for some speed and gets a little bit of it. The half in a slow 49-1. Now down the backstretch. Cacoethes leads it by 3/4 of a length. As you can see, With Approval is edging up into second position, and Fast and Gold with Jerry Bailey on the outside is third, and Al Wahoosh toward the inside is fourth at this point. Shy Tom is now at the back of the pack as El Senor begins to close. 3/4 in 1:14-1. And they continue down the backstretch with a very slow pace. And Cacoethes, with Ray Cochrane aboard, continues to show the way by about a length and a half. And as you see on the outside, With Approval is right there second by a neck. Al Wahoosh at the rail, gaining ground a bit in third. Then El Senor starting to make his run with Cordero on the outside. Shy Tom and Fast and Gold is sixth and last. As they move to the top of the stretch, now Cacoethes draws clear by 4 lengths. Along the inside, Al Wahoosh is second ahead. With Approval is racing third, and El Senor is back into fourth position. They straighten away in the lane, and Cacoethes has a ton of horse there. Through the stretch, Cacoethes in front by 3 with Approval. Tries to close the gap. Al Wahoosh at the rail is racing third, and down the stretch they come. Cacoethes, who set them slow early factions, has a lot left for the Belmont stretch. Let's see if he can get caught. It's Cacoethes in front by 2. No, they're not going to catch him. Ray Cochrane aboard Cacoethes by 2.5, and it's a tight photograph between With Approval and Al Wahoosh for the second and third places in this Turf Classic. The final time, 2 minutes 25 seconds. That's only a fifth of a second off the track record set by Secretariat. They came home fast today, Chris.
Well, that they did, Dave. A 2:25.1 had been the stakes record here by John Henry. A fifth off that is Cacoethes, who again, Charles, you said you liked, and they said they thought he could go wire to wire, was really set up as the only speed. And what a weekend it's been for California breds. He is a Cal bred, and Flying Continental, the Cal bred, won, of course, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. They've been starring here in New York. We'll take a look at the replay.
The first quarter in 24 and change, Cacoethes was pulling Ray Cochrane out of the saddle. He went around there with his ears pricked. It was just a matter of how slow he could keep him for how long, and when he turned him loose, it didn't matter who was coming because he was gone. Big, long striding horse. He just galloped around here. This race was just a cakewalk for him.
The trainer, Guy Harward, stayed in Europe today for the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. But I'll tell you, he's got to be very pleased. He won the Man of War here with defensive play just 2 weeks ago. Now he comes back and takes New York's richest event, the Turf Classic. We have a photo sign up on the board for second place. But the clear winner to us looked like the horse from England, Cacoethes. Here's our unofficial winner of the Turf Classic of 1990, Cacoethes, the English horse, a California bred coming from England. This was his debut in the United States, the son of Alydar. Out of the Jester mare Careless Notion, Cacoethes, a Keeneland sales purchase for $255,000. Let's take a look at how this 4-year-old from England did it. Dave?
There's Cacoethes on the front end, and With Approval on the outside is second, and Al Wahoosh, the 5 horse, is at the rail and third in this point. Now, as we watch the action, now Ray Cochrane asks for some speed. This horse on the engine, trouble-free for 10 furlongs, was 0 for 3 going into this race, and almost a time bandit for the last quarter of a mile. Watch the speed. This is quite a powerful rally that Cacoethes unleashes through the stretch. They are simply not gaining on this horse because of the slow early fractions, 49-1 and 114-1. And Guy Harward just told us in the press box here that this horse will go back to England now and be flown back here for another chance at the Breeders' Cup. 1.5 miles. Looks like he loves it.
Well, he was the second favorite in last year's Epsom Derby. He finished third to Nashwan, his early season rival last year. Then, of course, he'd been raced sparingly because of some foot problems. They said he must have fast ground. He got the firm footing today and came home a winner. There you see the assistant trainer here, Jeff Lawson, Harward's assistant, answering questions from the press. We'll be back to ask him some questions ourselves right after this. Danny Phipps, chairman of the Jockey Club, and the coat and tie there, making the presentation to Ray Cochrane, rider of Cacoethes, and what an incredible job by this English shipper. He ran the 1.25 miles in 2 minutes and 4/5, and then 2:25 for the 1.5 miles. Again, 1/5 off a John Henry Stakes record here. Here are the official prices. Cacoethes $5.85 and $2.60. Al Wahoosh $7.80 and $3. Won the photo for second over the Canadian With Approval. So the 2 Canadian stars, the 2 Triple Crown winners, came here as favorites. Both finished third. His Vestia yesterday in the Gold Cup, With Approval today in the Turf Classic. Charlesy?
Well, I'm with Ray Cochrane, who I'm not going to say you didn't earn your money, but that was as easy a ride and a win as I've seen in a long time, Ray. He was impressive.
Yeah, he's always been a very, very good horse, but he's had a lot of training problems this year, and this is the first time he's come right, you know. Last time at Ascot, he just got tired.
He hadn't won a race this year, but he's had some foot problems, some going with the turf. But now here we go, breaking out of the gate. He's going to change all that today. He broke just a tiny bit slow, number 1 on the inside.
Yeah, he does that sometimes. He has had a couple of times in the past, he's just got left. But I just popped out and actually just cocking his ears there and having a look at the rail and a few things going around. And I didn't want to lead him too fast. I think it's quite a stiff track, this turf track around here. But the shadows were always just next to me, so I thought I was going fast enough. He's a sort of horse he's hard to judge because he has a massive, massive stride, you know. But I was always confident on him sort of halfway down the back.
Well, he couldn't be going any easier into the turn. And as you go here, did he have any trouble with these American turns, tighter than usual?
He just hung off them there a little bit. I had to just keep putting him back on the rail, you know. But he's always been an impressive horse, and by the time he came good, you know.
All right, now you had some control of the pace early on, but when you turned for home and turned him loose, 225 flat, I mean, you were flying. Did you know how fast you were going?
No, I was only concerned nothing about the time, getting there first. That was the main thing.
Well, you did that indeed, and a most easy win for Cacoethes, now Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, he's in the Breeders' Cup turf, and he'll come back here for that. He has to have fast ground. He's a fast ground horse. If the ground was soft or anything like that there, he wouldn't really like it, you know.
All right, a great performance by Ray Cochrane and Cacoethes. Congratulations, and we go back to Chris.
All right, Chelsea, we'll take a look at the full order, how the half dozen ran in the 14th minute of the Turf Classic. Cacoethes finishing first. Al Wahoosh running second. We mentioned in a photo over with approval. El Senor was fourth. Shy Tom, the Bud Long shot today, is fifth. And the New York bred Fast and Gold finished sixth. Cacoethes, a new star from Europe, and we'll see him October 27th in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Back at Belmont Park as those shadows are lengthening a bit here on a beautiful October afternoon, and it just caps a tremendous weekend of racing, although one more Grade 1 event left. That is the Belle Dame coming up, the 8th race, 2 races from now. That's going to feature, of course, Go for Juan. That incredible mare has won 4 straight Grade 1 events and is the big favorite here today in the Belle Dame and on to the Breeders' Cup. We talked earlier with Billy Badgett, the trainer of Go for Juan. Hope to have him here, but he has a little bit of work, as you can imagine, in the barn. And now Go for Juan certainly steps up as a Horse of the Year candidate. And Billy is considering the Breeders' Cup Classic, the $3 million event. She's never run against the boys before. She may try for the biggest prize of all. We'll keep you updated on that. But first, the Belle Dame for her today. And then next for us, it'll be, of course, the biggest event of the Meadowlands fall season, the Meadowlands Cup. This big Grade 1 event is going to be featuring one of the nation's top 3-year-olds, the Preakness winner, Summer Squall, going against some pretty tough older company like Bo Genius and Me Selecto. That's coming up this Friday, October the 12th. It'll be live here on ESPN at 10 o'clock. And, of course, Dave and Chelsea told you about the great turf events throughout the year. Well, another great turf race is coming up on ESPN later in October, the Budweiser International, formerly known as the DC International. It's attracted horses and horsemen from every continent of the globe for nearly 40 years. Through its 38-year history of the International, starting with this inaugural running back in 1952, American horses have won 19, the world has won 19. Here's a back-to-back winner, the only one ever, Bald Eagle, trained by Woody Stevens. The great 5-time Horse of the Year, Kelso, also won the International. We'll have it for you live on ESPN, a special 90-minute show, October 21st, 1:30 to 3. Be sure to join us at Laurel for the International. Spectacular weekend of racing here, and to kind of put everything in perspective, what it all means with an eye ahead to the Breeders' Cup weekend, let's again go to Dave and Chelsea down in the winner's circle.
And I guess we ought to go back and take a look at that backstretch move by With Approval, because he never quite got to Cacoethes. And Cacoethes, with Ray Cochrane aboard, is on the front end, and as you can see, he's just galloping along there. With Approval, the gray on the outside. Al Wahoosh in a little tight quarters there.
Yeah, but here's the difference. Look at Craig Perret. He's hunched over and he's kind of driving. Ray Cochrane's still sitting up there like he's out fox hunting one day. I mean, he's just having a gallop in the park. And he hasn't let this horse run yet.
Fast and Gold is closing a little bit, and there you just see El Senor's head on the outside. And Al Wahoosh looked like he'd saved a lot of ground. He might be making a move, but there's just no stopping this horse on the front end.
Now, Dave, I have to ask you something. Now, when Guy Harward said last time that the ground was too soft for Cacoethes, Dad, do you believe him?
I think I do. Yes, I do. Also, after the race, have you ever noticed you find things in the form? I should have listened to you, Charlesy. But after the race, I see that this horse, Cacoethes, has carried 3 weights this year, 133 twice and 131. Okay. So he gets in with 126 this afternoon, and he must feel like he's just loose on the lead.
I think the rest of these horses wished it had been a handicap, and he'd carried a whole lot more than he did today.
How do you think he'll do in the Breeders' Cup?
I think he'll run very well. And the interesting thing about the Breeders' Cup now is that there's so many different ways so many different horses can go. I mean, Billy Badgett has got a selection to make with Go for Juan. Some of these turf horses can go long or short in the mile or the mile and a half, and a lot of them are opting for the dirt. A lot of shaking down between now and October 27th.
And they say that they fly over 4 days before the race. It's worked for them twice. Probably might be a very big factor in the Breeders' Cup. Chris?
All right, thank you, Dave. We want to tell you, looking ahead to the week on ESPN, we're going to be having the Fall PGA Golf Tour continuing in Las Vegas, Nevada, and a couple days to remember, a midnight recap of the action on Saturday, and we'll be live Sunday for the final round from Las Vegas, the Invitational PGA Golf on ESPN, week from today at 5 o'clock Eastern. Well, maybe the big winner, maybe the big loser of the weekend might have been Dwayne Lucas. He was last with deposit ticket as the favorite in the Champagne. Then he was last with Stylen, trying to get him to make the transformation from the grass to the dirt in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Today with Shy Tom, he runs fifth. But Dwayne Lucas might have been a winner this weekend too, because Criminal Type may have taken a step closer to Horse of the Year. His brilliant campaigner, who now is done for the year after coming up with an ankle injury earlier this week. He's been sent back to Calumet Farm in Lexington, Kentucky, but now certainly nobody stepped ahead this weekend, at least not ahead of Criminal Type. So might have been a pretty good weekend for Team Lucas after all. And it has been a spectacular weekend of racing action here in New York. And all capped off by Cacoethes here in a tremendous effort, 1/5 of a second off of John Henry Stakes record to win the Turf Classic. Brought to you today on ESPN, the Turf Classic at Belmont Park, New York, by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By the Mirage in Las Vegas, presenting the World Heavyweight Championship. Douglas versus Holyfield, October 25th. By the Cardiff Stud Farms of California. What a weekend for Calbreds here. DeBartolo Racing, leading the way to the 21st century. And by the Thoroughbred Racing Associations, assuring the highest racing standards, Belmont Park, a TRA member. Accommodations for ESPN. By the JFK Hilton, the airport hotel of the 90s. Hilton, it's all in the name. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rental. For reservations at over 700 locations worldwide, call Thrifty at 1-800-4CARS. Travel consideration furnished by Delta Airlines. Delta has ranked first among all major U.S. airlines for 15 straight years. At Delta, we love to fly, and it shows. And if you love thoroughbred racing, this was the place to be. Belmont Park, New York. So long, everyone, from New York.